You ever get that feeling? Standing up there, giving a presentation,
Yeah.
your heart's racing, palms are sweaty, trying to, really knock it out of the park.
Oh, yeah.
But then, bam, someone hits you with a question.
Yeah.
It's like totally out of left field, right?
Yeah.
Or you got that one person in the audience who just looks bored.
It's interesting, those are the moments that can actually really, I think, help you become a better presenter
You think so?
because it forces you to think on your feet,
Right.
to be adaptable.
So how do we turn those panic moments into something that actually makes us look good?
Well, the first thing is, when you get that tough question, just take a second.
Oh, okay.
Breathe. It shows the audience that you're thinking.
It makes you look calmer,
Yeah.
even if you're freaking out inside.
Exactly. It projects composure.
Mm.
And even if you don't know the answer right away,
Oh, what do you do then?
you can say, that's a great question. I want to make sure I give you the right information, so let me look into that and get back to you.
I guess that's better than just making something up.
It builds trust with the audience
So you're honest.
and that you care about giving them accurate information.
Right, so pause and breathe. Got it. But what about when you're getting criticized? Sometimes that feels so personal.
It can be tough, I get it. But that's where listening carefully comes in.
Active listening, right?
You have to really understand where they're coming from.
Even if I don't agree.
Even then, just acknowledging their perspective can de-escalate things. I see your point, you can say, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay. And if it's totally off base.
Then you can politely redirect the conversation. But starting with that acknowledgement, it makes things less confrontational.
So far, so good. We've tackled tough questions, dealt with criticism. But what about the people who just interrupt?
Ah, the interrupters. Sometimes you can preempt that by saying something like, I'll be happy to take questions at the end. Or addressing potential questions right up front.
So be proactive.
Exactly. But if someone does interrupt, just pause, make eye contact.
To regain control.
Yeah. You could say, hold on, I'll get to that in just a moment. Or let me finish this thought, and then I'd love to hear your question.
Okay, so it's about being assertive, but polite.
You're acknowledging them, but you're also staying in charge of the presentation.
Makes sense. I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Lots of good tips.
Yeah, and the key takeaway is really just stay calm.
Even when you want to run and hide.
Even then, your reaction, it really shapes the whole experience for you and the audience.
Speaking of the audience, let's talk about those folks who always seem skeptical.
Or just not paying attention.
Yeah. What do we do about them?
Well, sometimes, skepticism, it's not always a bad thing.
Oh, how so?
It can be a sign that someone's really thinking about what you're saying. So instead of seeing them as a problem, maybe think of them as engaged, just in a different way.
Okay, but how do you bring them around?
One way is to ask questions that really get them thinking.
Like what?
You could say, what are your thoughts on this so far? Or have you ever faced a similar challenge?
So get them involved in the conversation.
Exactly. Make it a dialogue instead of just you talking at them.
Okay, I like that.
And if someone's really skeptical, you can almost feel the doubt.
Yeah.
Address it directly. You could say, I know this might seem different, but... And then give them the reasons why it works.
Show them the evidence.
Exactly. Sometimes the most skeptical people can become your biggest supporters once they feel like you've heard them.
That's really cool.
It is. And it's all about building that connection with your audience.
So we've talked about handling those tricky questions.
Yeah.
And dealing with criticism.
And in navigating interruptions.
Yeah, and it seems like the main thing is staying calm.
Maintaining your composure no matter what.
That seems hard sometimes.
It can be, but it makes such a difference. It shows confidence.
Even when you don't feel it.
Exactly. And it helps create a better experience for everyone.
So what's next? What other presentation challenges should we tackle?
It can be tough, right? You put all this work into your presentation.
About hours. Days even.
And then you have these folks who are not buying it.
Yeah, totally. Their arms are crossed, eyebrows raised.
Exactly. But even then, there's a chance to turn things around.
How so?
Well, let's say someone's looking bored. You can try bringing them back in with a question. Have you ever run into this problem yourself? Something like that.
Oh, I see.
It gets them thinking, participating.
Instead of just zoning out.
Right. And for the super skeptical ones, those who seem like they're just waiting to poke holes in everything.
Oh, yeah?
Don't shy away from it. Acknowledge it head on.
Like how?
You could say something like, now I know some of you might be thinking. And then you address that concern directly.
That's brave.
It is. but it also shows confidence.
And that you're not afraid of those tough questions.
Exactly. And sometimes those skeptical folks, they can become your biggest champions
Really?
once they feel heard and understood.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
It is. It all comes back to that human element, you know, connecting with your audience.
So we've talked about handling those tough questions, navigating criticism, the interrupters.
And now the skeptics and the disengaged.
It seems like a lot to juggle.
It is. But the good news is these are all skills you can develop.
With practice.
Exactly. The more you do it, the easier it gets.
And the more confident you'll feel.
And the thing is, even if you don't feel confident at first, you can still project it.
Fake it till you make it.
Kind of. It's more about remembering that your reaction, it sets the tone.
So if I stay calm, the audience is more likely to stay calm too.
Precisely. It's about creating that positive, engaging atmosphere.
All right, so let's say we're feeling good. We've handled all the curveballs. What's the next level?
Well, think about it this way. All those tricky situations, they're actually opportunities
Opportunities
to connect with your audience on a deeper level.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like when someone asks a tough question, it shows they're really engaged.
They're thinking critically.
Exactly. And by responding thoughtfully, you're showing that you respect their engagement.
And that builds trust.
It does. And it makes the whole presentation more dynamic, more like a conversation.
So it's not just about delivering information, it's about creating an experience.
Absolutely. And that's what people will remember.
Okay, before we go any further, let's recap those 4 key techniques.
For handling those presentation curveballs.
Right. So first we have
The pause. That moment to breathe, collect your thoughts before responding.
okay, number 2.
Acknowledge criticism gracefully. Listen to understand, not just to reply.
And then acknowledge their point of view, even if you don't agree.
Exactly. It diffuses the tension.
All right, number 3.
Handle interruptions assertively. Be clear about expectations and redirect politely but firmly.
So you're in control, but not being a jerk about it.
Right. And finally,
Engage those skeptical folks.
turn their skepticism into curiosity through questions, evidence, and genuine dialogue.
It's like you're saying, hey, I hear you. Let's explore this together.
Exactly. It's collaborative, not confrontational.
I love that.
And remember, the more you practice these techniques, the more natural they become.
Like anything else, it takes time.
But the payoff is huge. You'll become a more confident, adaptable presenter.
Capable of handling anything that comes your way.
Exactly. And who knows, you might even start to enjoy those tricky situations.
Because they're opportunities for growth.
And for creating truly memorable presentations.
This has been so insightful. Thanks for sharing all these great tips.
My pleasure. It's all about empowering people to be better communicators.
Well, before we wrap up, any final thoughts for our listeners?
Sure. As you're prepping for your next presentation, think about those moments that make you nervous.
The what ifs.
Exactly. And then mentally rehearse how you'd use these techniques.
So when those moments happen, you're ready.
You'll be surprised how much smoother it goes when you've already thought it through.
Great advice. Thanks again for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, keep practicing, keep experimenting, and keep sharing your ideas with the world.
It's funny, right? We get so focused on all the details.
The slides, the data.
All of that. But sometimes I think we forget about the most important part.
Which is?
The people. The connection with your audience.
Oh, for sure. That's what makes a presentation really stick.
And, you know, those tricky moments we've been talking
The
about.
tough questions, the interruptions.
Those are actually chances to strengthen that connection.
Really? How so?
Think of it like this. Every time someone pushes back, it's an invitation to go deeper.
To explain things better.
Exactly. Or to see things from a different perspective.
So instead of freaking out, it should be like, bring it on!
Well, not quite, but you get the idea.
Embrace the challenge.
Right, because those challenges, they can make your presentation more dynamic, more engaging.
I like that. It's like turning those uh-oh moments into something positive.
Exactly. And as you get better at handling those moments,
You get more confident.
exactly, it becomes less about just surviving and more about thriving.
So if you could give our listeners just one piece of advice about all this, what would it be?
Remember, confidence comes from practice. The more you do this, the easier it gets.
Like anything else, right?
Right. And the more you embrace those challenges, the more you'll grow as a presenter.
This has been so great. Thanks so much for sharing all your insights.
My pleasure.
And to everyone listening, remember, the next time you're up there presenting,
And you hit one of those tricky spots.
take a deep breath, stay calm.
And trust yourself.
You got this. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Until next time.